Hard Knocks is back, and we get the Buffalo Bills. It should be important for everybody to note. It used to be that if you made the playoffs the previous year, you couldn't qualify for Hard Knocks. They couldn't make you do it. They changed that rule in the NFL because, frankly, they were getting the same junk teams every year. So now there's a bigger pool to pick from, and the Buffalo Bills have been graced with the opportunity to give us this year's Hard Knocks. But there's also the Hard Knocks curse. In fact, no team has ever been on Hard Knocks and gone on to win the Super Bowl that year. So we're sitting here looking at the Buffalo Bills with all of this, and I'm wondering pressure. It just feels like we're in the middle of a pressure cooker. Caroline Fenton, who has the most pressure in Buffalo in your mind this year?
Yeah, it's a fantastic question. And I did watch the first episode of Hard Knocks last night, and there was a whole bunch of nothing in there. But I will say, Fitz, it was very refreshing to not have a crap team on Hard Knocks. Like, I don't need to see the Jets and the Giants of the world in Hard Knocks, okay? It was nice to actually hear about legitimate Super Bowl aspirations. So you say, there's been a little bit of a quote-unquote Hard Knocks curse. I would say that more so has to do with the fact that bad teams are on Hard Knocks, not when you're on Hard Knocks, you all of a sudden just become bad. But to your question about the pressure in Buffalo, it's hard to say that the pressure lies on Josh Allen's shoulders because what more can Josh Allen really do, right? He's the reigning MVP. That team has been in the Super Bowl discussion squarely because of Josh Allen. Up and down that roster is not the same level of superstar that you might see with the Chiefs or with the Eagles or other Super Bowl contenders. It has been Josh Allen, and Josh Allen has been the heartbeat of that organization. But I think I have to say that since he is the quarterback of this team, the pressure does lie on Josh Allen's shoulders. That Josh Allen has gotten the Bills to the divisional round of the playoffs and even to the AFC Championship game in majority of the last few seasons. Sometimes it has been flubs from Josh Allen that has kept them from really breaking through past the Chiefs or the Bengals. So I'm going to say it's probably not fair, but look, life's not fair. Football's not fair. It's not fair for me to say that the pressure's on Josh Allen, but that's frankly where I think it is. This team goes as Josh Allen goes. The pressure lies with Josh Allen.
So fair's where a pig gets a ribbon. We know fair doesn't actually happen in life. All right. There's a Southernism by me right there.
Never heard that before.
Thank you so much. Fair's where a pig gets a ribbon.
Like
Say it all the time. But look, I hear you on Josh, and I've had the opportunity over the course of the last couple of years for Yahoo to talk to Josh Allen a lot. And I think that if there's anybody that just seems numb to that pressure, it's Josh. And right now, if I'm being honest, we spent so much time, especially around like Daboll, for example. When Daboll managed to get the best out of Josh Allen, suddenly he got a head coaching gig. What I think we've learned since then is that Josh Allen has become the thing that actually rises everything around him. Like we talk about quarterbacks needing to elevate star players. I think great quarterbacks elevate absolutely everybody in the room. And that's what Josh Allen has consistently done. To me, when I'm looking at pressure, I'm looking squarely at Sean McDermott. And I know it's easy to blame a head coach. And last year, one of my good friends that's a Bills fan just loudly yelled at everybody that wants to critique Sean McDermott. No, it's not fair. I get it. I understand it. But if we're going to have to blame somebody, I blame a head coach that's supposed to be a defensive-minded head coach for a defense that hasn't played well enough. It's not Josh Allen's fault that Kansas City scored in the last 12 seconds of the game. I mean, at some point, if we're going to get a scapegoat, then that scapegoat to me is the man that leads the entire organization, because I don't know what else we can ask for Josh Allen. And this is where it gets really hard, because the other part of this, let's be fair and honest for a second, Caroline. What if the answer is the Bills don't have to do anything differently? Like, nobody likes it. We live in a first take society where one of us has to be Stephen A and the other person has to be whoever Stephen A's beaten up that day, because that's the way the show's designed. And then all of a sudden we're going to yell at each other about, it's got to be this person or that person. Like, sometimes you are just unlucky. And as much as that's hard for everybody to hear, we don't want to believe in luck. You win a Super Bowl because that year you didn't get really hurt in the key spots. You were healthier than everybody. You got a lucky bounce or two. When you talk to people that have actually won Super Bowls, they will acknowledge how much luck goes into the process. I don't think the Buffalo Bills truly need to fix anything. I think the Buffalo Bills need to get lucky, or the Buffalo Bills need the Kansas City Chiefs to stop getting lucky. Like, it just feels like at some point they need to pray to the altar of Lady Luck and hope things turn around. And that's not tangible, so people don't like the answer. But I honestly think that's the most reasonable answer to what has to change.
I did local sports talk radio in Nashville for 4 years. And Rand Carthon, the former general manager of the Tennessee Titans, he had his postseason press conference after the 2023 season, I believe it was, when the team was truly just dreadful. And he was asked about, why the season ended that way. And he said, the ball just didn't bounce our way. And that bred a lot of frustration with the fan base because was it the ball didn't bounce your way? That was the reason why you had the 30th ranked defense in the NFL. The ball didn't bounce your way. You couldn't consistently score more than 14 points a game. That was the ball didn't bounce your way throughout an entire 17 game season. But to your point, I think for winning a championship, when the margins are inches, if not centimeters, yeah, the ball kind of does have to bounce your way. I think anyone who has won a championship can acknowledge that sometimes there's a little bit of luck involved, whether that's ref luck or ball luck or weather luck or whatever, the luck of the draw of a schedule, where luck might not justify being one of the worst teams in the league, but luck sometimes can kind of propel you to a championship season. But when the Bills have been squarely in place to win a championship, fair to say over the last 5+ years, of 5 to 8 years might seem a little bit dramatic, but I'll say 5 years. I think that's a good span. When the Bills have been squarely in place as championship contenders over the last 5 years, luck doesn't cut it. Luck doesn't, you can't explain to a fan base, a rabid and passionate and loyal fan base that, well, we just got unlucky. I can justify one season saying unlucky, that, hey, sometimes the strike of luck just doesn't go your way. But over the last 5 seasons, luck ain't good enough. And it shouldn't be good enough for a fan base that is as rabid and loyal as the Bills fan base. Because is it luck that the Chiefs could have three-peated this past season? Is it luck that Patrick Mahomes has won 3 Super Bowls? No, it's just that he's one of the best, if not the greatest quarterback in the league. So if I'm a Bills fan, luck just doesn't justify it enough for me. But you bring up the coaching staff and Sean McDermott, and luck isn't good enough. So how hot is his seat? His seat should be hot, even though that they are Super Bowl contenders. But yeah, go ahead.
Okay, you're right that luck shouldn't be good enough, but this is what I always push back to when people have this Chiefs conversation all the time. It's like, well, we got to get better than the Chiefs. If you want to be better than the Chiefs, this is what you're asking. You're asking for your team to have the best quarterback of his current generation. I think we agree that that's Patrick Mahomes. Now, Josh Allen is very, very close, but I will agree that right now, Patrick Mahomes is widely considered the best quarterback of his generation. I'm avoiding the Brady v. Mahomes debate. You have to have the best head coach of his generation. I think that is very clearly Andy Reid. I don't think there's a real question about that. And I think by the time it's all said and done, Andy Reid has a shot to actually go down as better than Belichick. That's how good I think Andy Reid is. And then on top of that, you have to have the best defensive coordinator of his generation in Steve Spagnuolo. So, part of the reason the Bills need to get lucky is that man you're looking at right there, Sean McDermott, is a very good head coach. I don't think that there's any question that he's very good. It's okay to also say he's not as good as Andy Reid. Congratulations. Yeah. You have one of the best head coaches in the NFL, one of the best quarterbacks, one of the best teams in the NFL. But you are taking on a dynastic juggernaut that has the best at those same things. So, I think you have to get a little bit lucky because you don't control. It's like they always say, and I've said this many times, Nick Saban and Mike Krzyzewski are the two that frequently said this to their team. Don't worry about being the best. Worry about being your best, because if you are obsessed with being the best, then you are obsessed with a variable you cannot control. And I've talked to Saban about this before. Saban is just obsessed with the fact that you show up every day and you are the best version of yourself, because you can't control if somebody else walks in the room and they're just better than you are. And I would say that as good as the Buffalo Bills have been for the last 5 years, they walked into the room and there's a team that at every one of these skill spots is just better than they are. So you got to get lucky, because you don't control your own destination unless you're planning on the Chiefs getting unlucky.
And look, I will wholeheartedly acknowledge that luck is involved. I think there's luck involved in every single championship. But when you say, okay, well, Patrick Mahomes, the greatest quarterback of this generation, I do not disagree. Andy Reid is an offensive mastermind, and those two together are unstoppable. But at that point, at this point with the Buffalo Bills, that their glass ceiling has been Chiefs Kingdom, I almost don't care anymore. I don't care that Patrick Mahomes is the greatest quarterback of this generation. I don't care that Andy Reid has done everything that he has done. I don't care that Steve Spagnuolo is a defensive genius. I don't care anymore. I'm ready to win a Super Bowl. If I am a Buffalo Bills fan, I'm sick and tired of hearing about how great Patrick Mahomes is. I'm sick and tired of hearing about, the draw that the Chiefs might have gotten and the luck that they get at the end of games and the number of last minute games that they've won this past season. I'm sick and tired of hearing about that because the Patrick Mahomes, I know it's not an excuse, but I'll just say it anyways. The Patrick Mahomes excuse gets old when you're constantly knocking on the door of a championship and you can't break through.
Patrick Mahomes is 26-6 in his career in one-score games.
It's
26-6 in one-score games. What does that tell us? That tells us the only way the Bills are ever going to beat Patrick Mahomes is if they blow him out. And the only way you're blowing out the Chiefs is if you blow out Andy Reid. I don't see it. And look, to answer your question very specifically, I think it's tough for me because part of me understands the logic of why Sean McDermott would be on the hot seat, honestly. And it's not because he's not a great head coach. I think any team would be lucky to have him. I just think that, to your point, the entire organization feels like they're beating their head against the wall. So you change what you can change. You're not changing Josh Allen. Like, that ain't going to happen. So what else can you change? But I'm frustrated because I also think that that's change for the sake of change. And yeah, maybe it's like the Buccaneers effect. You take out Tony Dungy and you bring in John Gruden and you get that one Super Bowl, but at what cost? I don't know. But Caroline, I would just say this, and Bills fans know this better than anybody. I'm preaching to the choir. Like, I've got a whole choir behind me. There's like 65 people. They're all wearing Bills jerseys, and they're not just from this generation. Because if I'm being honest for a second, if Twitter and First Take and all of these 24-hour news cycles existed when the Buffalo Bills were losing 4 straight Super Bowls, we would have lost our minds. And I'm trying not to do that with the Bills now, because I think one of the great mistakes historically we've made in the NFL is we downplayed a team that made it to 4 straight Super Bowls. Like, how hard is it to make it to 4 straight Super Bowls? And because they lost all 4 of them, they became a running joke. And I like, we're doing the same thing right now. When we oversimplify anything, and not we, you and I, but the collective world oversimplifies anything and says, well, go win a Super Bowl. We're doing exactly what we shouldn't have done to the Bills in the 90s. When you are as good as they are right now, all you can do is tip your cap and say, hey, you're really good. And there's no secret to getting over the Chiefs. You're just going to have to get lucky one year and do. And that, it sucks. It sucks as an answer. But man, my heart breaks for Bills fans because they've lived this before and they didn't appreciate at that moment how good that era was. I don't want them to do the same thing now.
I think that there is a certain type of sports fan torture of being so close, but not close enough. I talked to Keegan-Michael Key, humble brag, at the Super Bowl. He's a diehard Detroit Lions fan. And I've asked him, you've lived in the sea of suck for a very long time as a Lions fan. But now the past couple of years, the Lions are legitimate Super Bowl contenders. So I asked him, what's worse as a fan? Being a fan of a team that sucks, the 0-16 Lions, or a Lions team that lost in the NFC Championship game. He goes, oh, it's way worse to be a fan of a team that lost in the NFC Championship game. Because at least when you suck, when you are so terrible, it's fine. Just suck. When you suck, just suck even more. Get the first overall pick. At least when you suck, you suck and you know what to expect. And yes, it stinks. And yes, it's humbling to put on a Lions jersey for a team that hasn't won a single game this season, but at least you know what to expect and you can just swim in the sea of suck and do cartwheels in it. When you're so close, but not close enough, it's just a certain type of torture and hurt of just, oh, we were right there. If you just would have done one thing differently, if it just would have been one different play call, if it just this and that and game of inches, you would have been right there. That's where the Bills are right now. And it's really easy to say, we're just that away. We're just this away. We're just an inch away. And it's really easy to say, if we just change a couple of things here and there, just like Sean McDermott, hey, it's gotten old. It's gotten stale. We need a new voice. Put Sean McDermott on the hot seat. But you can do a whole lot worse in the NFL. But man, it's hard to justify that to a Bills fan. Look, it could be worse. But yeah, it could be better because there's one thing that matters in sports. and it's championships.
Oh, okay. I will throw myself on the sword here, and let's go back 20 years ago. Much different version of me. All right, maybe an angrier version of me. Not quite the jovial person that I am today. I remember watching one year where Tony Siragusa knocked Rich Gannon out, and the Raiders lost in the playoffs in just a heartbreaking year where they were the best team in football. And I remember another year right after that where there was this play I don't know if you've ever heard of called the Tuck Rule, and the Raiders
Oh,
lost.
yes,
And
yes.
then
Heard of it.
the year after that, there was this. I don't know if anybody remembers this Super Bowl where the Raiders starting center went AWOL and the head coaches hadn't changed any of the play calling, and John Gruden absolutely destroyed my beloved Raiders for a Super Bowl. And I remember specifically in that moment saying, I would rather not even make the playoffs than lose this way 3 years in a row. Then I lived through 10 straight years of double-digit losses. I will challenge anyone that says suck is worse, because when you are in that area, it is hopeless.